In some rare positive news coming out of the IRS, well, the agency has just announced that they are waiving the failure to pay penalty, meaning the late fees, for approximately 5 million American taxpayers. Specifically, in a recent statement that the IRS put out on the website, you can see it up on the screen right now, the agency said that about 4.7 million individuals will have their penalties wiped clean. And in terms of who is eligible for this relief, quote, the taxpayers eligible for the relief are those who did not receive automated reminders from the IRS to pay overdue tax bills when the agency temporarily suspended the mailing of such notices in February of 2022 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Taxpayers who are eligible for the automatic relief include individuals, businesses, trusts, estates, and tax-exempt organizations that filed certain tax forms, including 1040, 1120, 1041, and 990T income tax returns. The relief covers tax years 2020 or 2021, but only applies to those with an assessed tax of less than $100,000 and covers taxpayers who were issued an initial balance due notice between February 5th of 2022 and December 7th of 2023. Meaning, in plain English, that if you were one of the 5 million taxpayers who owed back taxes for the years 2020 and or 2021, if your total tax liability is below $100,000, and if you received an initial notice from the IRS informing you of the fact that you owe taxes, but then you never received any follow-up notices, well, then you qualify for this relief. And essentially, the way it typically is supposed to work is that when you owe back taxes to the IRS, they send you an initial notice informing you of the fact that you owe them money, and then subsequently there's a penalty for not paying that keeps accruing every single month. The penalty is actually pretty steep. Every single month it's around 5% of your total balance. So the longer you don't pay, the longer your total debt becomes. And the IRS would, as a normal course of operations, send people automatic notices informing them of the fact that they owe these back taxes and that by not paying the back taxes, they are being hit with a penalty month after month. Typically, the way it would work in a normal situation is that an individual would receive a CP-14 notice, which is then followed up by 3 or 4 reminder letters that are sent out about every 5 weeks. However, as that statement from the IRS mentioned, in February of 2022, the agency suddenly stopped sending those follow-up notices. Quote, normally, these reminders would have been sent as a follow-up after an initial notice, but the IRS didn't send them out because it was swamped by a backlog of millions of original and amended tax returns filed at the height of the pandemic that the agency was unable to process. The IRS did, however, send out initial balance due notices, and so penalties for failing to pay taxes owed continued to accrue. Citing this unusual situation, the IRS said it's waiving the failure to pay penalties for certain affected taxpayers. Meaning, again, in just plain English, that if you happen to be one of the 5 million American taxpayers who owe back taxes for those 2 years and you stopped receiving follow-up notices from the IRS in the year 2022, well, all the penalties that have been accruing on your account will now be wiped clean. And the total dollar amount that this represents is rather significant. Quote, the IRS estimates that 5 million tax returns filed by 4.7 million individuals, businesses, trusts, estates, and tax-exempt organizations are eligible for the penalty relief. This represents $1 billion in savings to taxpayers, or about $206 per return. It's quite something when our government overlords, who already tax us through sales tax, income tax, property tax, capital gains tax, social security tax, Medicare tax, highway tolls, and about 20 other different methods, they make a special announcement about not taking $206 from your account. Thank you very much. Regardless, if you happen to fall into this category of someone who's actually eligible for this relief, according to the statement from the IRS, you actually don't need to do anything to have these penalties waived, as it should be done automatically within the next few days. Quote, the tax relief is automatic, but applies only to eligible taxpayers who owe less than $100,000 in back taxes. Meaning, again, that if your tax liability is over $100,000, this actually does not apply to you. Now, in terms of the timetable here, these penalties have now been waived, but they will start accruing again once the IRS restarts sending out these automated notices. Quote, the failure to pay penalty will resume on April 1st of 2024 for those taxpayers who are eligible for the relief. Meaning that these late fees will start racking up again in April, although the actual late notices will start getting sent out later this month, meaning in January. Quote, to help the taxpayers, as the normal processes resume, the IRS will be issuing a special reminder letter to them starting this month. And so there you have it. The late fees for the years 2020 and 2021 have been wiped clean, but they will begin accruing again come April. If you'd like to read this full notice from the IRS for yourself, I'll throw a link to it down into the description box below. And then also, I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you appreciate the IRS for doing this? Or, perhaps, do you still think that any and all taxation is still just legalized theft, regardless of whether they get rid of the late fees. I'd love to know your thoughts. Please leave them in the comment section below. I'll be reading through them later tonight, as well as well into the week. And that, let me quickly introduce today's sponsor by showing you this little piece of money. Or rather, I should say that this is fake money being printed into oblivion by those geniuses over in Washington, D.C. And so before they completely obliterate your life savings, what I recommend you do is to convert that fake money into real money, which is physical gold and silver. And the best company to use is the sponsor of today's episode, American Hartford Gold, who also happens to be my own personal gold and silver bullion dealer. They have thousands of other 5-star ratings across the country. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They ship quickly, directly to your doorstep. Their product listings are awesome. They're stacked with great options of gold and silver bullion and coins, and they have amazing customer service. When you pick up the phone and call them, you feel good knowing you support a company that supports the truth getting out into the wider American audience. And so calling them up is a no-brainer. But best of all, if you tell them that Roman sent you, they will throw in up to $5,000 worth of free silver with your first purchase. It's 866-242-2352, or you can simply text the word Roman, R-O-M-A-N, Roman, to 65532. Of course, all their details will be down in the description box below. And now, let's head on back to the studio. And then lastly, if you are looking for some extra episodes of Facts Matter every single week, covering topics that are, quite frankly, too spicy for here on YouTube, well, you're in luck, because you can find them over on Epoch TV, our awesome no-censorship video platform. Over there, I publish between 1 to 3 exclusive episodes of Facts Matter every single week on topics like vaccine injuries, toxic seed oils, election irregularities, climate science, among many, many, many other topics that unfortunately cannot be published here on YouTube. Despite the fact that those episodes are 100% fact-based and properly sourced, well, that's just the reality of the world that we're currently living in. So if you want to check out those exclusive episodes, the ones that come out every single week, including a huge backlog from the last 2 or 3 years, well, now's a phenomenal time to try it, because the Epoch Times has just extended its holiday sale. 6 months, a 6-month trial subscription for just a single $1. 6 full months for just a single $1. Now, it's a great sale. Obviously, we don't make any money on a subscription like that. The idea is just to get you in the door, get you to try the content, watch the shows, read the articles, get hooked on the content, and then hopefully you'll be a subscriber for a long, long time to come. Months, years, perhaps even decades. So I hope you check it out. The link will be right there at the top of the description box below. You can just click on that link. It'll take you to the sale page where you can try the Epoch Times for, again, 6 full months for just a single $1. Again, the link is right there at the top of the description box below. I hope you check it out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed. Most importantly, stay free.